watch world is a very predictable place. It's predictable because big changes don't happen very often. Rolex increases the size of the Submariner by 1 millimeter, everybody goes crazy. Omega puts a gold second hand onto the moon swatch, and it's like we landed on the moon again. Real disruption doesn't happen very often. But Rolex did disrupt the market in 2012 when it released the Tudor Black Bay. This was a watch that did a lot of what we were longing for Rolex to do. It looked back at where they had come from, and it pulled inspiration into the present moment. And we got a watch that had no crown guards. It looked like something that was made in the 1950s. It even had faux tina. Now in 2023, these have become a part of the standard in the watch world. But back then, Rolex were disrupting, but they were using their sub-brand Tudor or their lesser brand Tudor to do it. In 2018, they did it again when they released the Black Bay 58. This time they were really on the money. This one wasn't tied to the present moment like the Black Bay. It wasn't 42 millimeters thick. It wasn't chunky and chubby. No. It was less than 12 mil thick. It was under 39 millimeters. And it looked like an old Rolex or an old Tudor. That watch inspired me, and I was expecting AliExpress to blow up with a plethora of homages, and it didn't. A couple of years back, Gary from I Like Watches ran a survey asking St. Martin wants to know what they should build, and I think the chorus of response was really loud. Build an homage to the Black Bay 58. St. Martin built the SN008G, and I was so eager to get my hands on that watch. And they built a really good tribute to the BB58, but it had a couple of problems. One of them was its size. It wasn't 38 mil, it wasn't 39 mil, it was 40 mil, the contemporary standard. Also, it has a shiny, flat, black bezel insert that makes it look more contemporary and less retro. A bit like the way that the current Submariner relates to the 5-digit references. So it left me a little bit feeling like they'd missed the mark just a little bit too much. And then a few months back, Namoki brought another possibility along. They launched a case, the NMK 939 case, just over 39 mil wide, coin edge bezel, boxed sapphire crystal, flat case back, measuring at 13.5 mils. Sure, a little bit thicker than the original, but there was potential. So I chose a set of parts, the right dial, the right hands, the right bezel insert, and I've built something that's an homage to the Black Bay 58. This video will put the two watches, the NMK 939 Black Bay 58 Build against the St. Martin SN008G, and we will see how they stack up against one another. I'm glad you've joined me, and I invite you to have a look at this shootout and see where it goes. Right, so here we have the two contenders, the Namoki NMK 939 and the St. Martin SN008G. I'm not going to do like a full review. I want to look at the primary differences between the two watches. So the first primary difference is three-dimensional. On the NMK 939, you'll notice you've got a sloped bezel insert and a really high boxed sapphire crystal. That changes the shape of the watch a whole lot, and it has what I call in one of my other reviews topography. It's got a greater form factor to it. If we look at the SN008G, in contrast, look how flat that is. Its bezel insert is flat. It does have a domed sapphire crystal with a chamfered edge, but it's a lot shallower than it is on the NMK 939. You'd also notice that the SN008 has got brushed sides, whereas the NMK has highly polished sides. When we look at the watch front on, you see that silver ring around the inside of the crystal, between the crystal and the bezel insert. That is unique to the SN008G. It's not something that you find on the NMK 939, and nor is it something that you find on the original watch. So that's another really big difference. We're going to be zooming in for the other big difference, and it has to do with the dials themselves. You'll notice that the St. Martin, when we've got them like this, you can see that the St. Martin is moderately bigger than the NMK, and that is a big difference. It you know, the size of the BB58 is everything really. But I'd like you to have a look at a couple of things. First of all, the gold on the St. Martin has got more of a copper tone to it, whereas the NMK 939 and the bezel insert are more what I would have called an ordinary gold. That also applies to the handsets and the indices surrounds. The gold on the St. Martin is a little redder. The hands on the St. Martin have got almost a flat surface, whereas the NMK hands have got a rounded edge to them. One of the biggest differences is the size of the indices. The NMK is more vintage in its size, but the St. Martin is more like kind of the maxi dials with the bigger plots all round. And then the final difference is the lume itself. The NMK is a whiter lume. It's not white, it is off-white, but it's not severe. Whereas the St. Martin, in my opinion, tends to be yellower than it needs to be. So what are my final conclusions? Well, in the end, I prefer the NMK as an homage to the BB58. It's closer to the BB58. There's not a lot that it misses. The thickness is another big difference over here. Take a look at those two. The St. Martin is under 12 mil. In fact, I think the St. Martin is thinner than the BB58, whereas the NMK is 2 mil thicker than the BB58. And that changes the way that they wear tremendously. So what are my final conclusions? My final conclusion is that the NMK is a better homage. It's more faithful to the one that it's wanting to work towards. And it comes a lot closer to that. I also like it for its character, and I like it for the fact that the lume is whiter, and it's not as forced. So I do like this NMK 939. The St. Martin, on the other hand, is its own watch. I think that's just like a really big deal on this. It's its own watch with that silver ring around the crystal, with the way that's flat, because it's not flat like that. The bezel inserts and the crystal are not flat on the original one. The way that it's slender and it sits on its wrist, it's an homage that is its own watch, and I dare say a more elegant solution, but a bit sterile in my opinion. This one is more alive. Now, I'm using words like that to try and convey what these watches feel like, because that is something that you cannot see in photos and on camera. So there it is, the NMK 939 case and a Black Bay build versus the SN008G. As I've said, the SN008G is a good tribute. It's its own watch, and it takes deep inspiration from the BB58, but it is its own watch. And if you're looking for something that is a bit more contemporary, that's a bit more slender on the wrist, that's maybe got a bit more potential to dress up, then that would be a great watch. St. Martin have launched an NH35 powered version of that watch that is cheaper. It's around $240 if I'm not mistaken, maybe $270. But the NMK 939 case comes really, really close to the look and feel, I think, of the Black Bay 58. What I would say, Namoki, I am begging you, please make a brushed steel bezel insert in black with gold numerals, and you will make the whole watch world happy, excited, delighted, because we will finally have something that can come really close to the look and feel of the Black Bay 58. If you want one of the Namoki watches, but you're not a watch builder, drop me an email, watchmbi@gmail.com, and I'll see what we can do. Perhaps I can get the parts in, build it up, and send it off to you. If you like the SN008G or the SN008GB, that's the one with the Seiko movement, click on the links below and you can go through to AliExpress and pick one up for yourself. But guys, this has been fun. Thank you for joining me, and enjoy everything you build. Just before you go, make sure you're subscribed and click the like button. Cheers.